All right, Coach. Hey, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. Appreciate you taking the time. Appreciate you stepping away from your soccer camp to do this. I realize how important I am in my own mind, so that just sort of validates it. But no, very grateful you're taking the time to talk to me today.
No, thanks for having
Um, all right, so just to jump right into it, you were just appointed head coach in 2022.
me. Yeah.
Maybe we could start by just talking about what's your soccer journey been like? How'd you end up at Keystone?
Yeah, so I actually grew up in the Harrisburg area, about 3 hours south of here. Played for a great high school team, played in the state championship, and then obviously played club ball in the area, and then ended up going to Messiah University. I played 4 years there, was very fortunate to play for a very successful program and really learn pretty much everything I know about soccer. Just really take that with me throughout my coaching career. I would say a lot of my values and coaching points, I think, stem from that background. And I came to Keystone because my husband's actually from this area. So we met at Messiah, and then once we got married, I moved up this way. Was actually an assistant in 2019 for the fall season because I just lived down the road, saw the position was opened, and couldn't resist getting right into
Yeah.
coaching.
Jump back
Um,
in, right?
yeah, so the fall, right after I graduated, that fall,
Mm-hmm.
was the assistant, and then some other things came up, so I stepped away. I saw the head coach position opened up in 2022, so last year, and jumped all over it. Was excited to see the opportunity because I had seen the college, like been around a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wasn't jumping right into something completely blind, but I knew kind of what the program and the school needed and was really excited to kind of grab hold and be able to kind of create it into my own and yeah, just go from there.
Yeah. Um, no, so I'm a big fan of Messiah.
Okay.
I'm that's my geeky side. I really enjoy the soccer that gets played there, both on the men's and the women's team. I think it's pretty unique and really fun to watch. But all right, so I have to ask you, like, and you mentioned a little bit about sort of who you are, your values, and that. How much of your Messiah experience, I don't want to say is shining through, but comes to
Yeah.
Keystone? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think I certainly pick and choose things that I could see fitting at Keystone as a whole. Ideally, I don't want to try to say like, oh, I'm bringing Messiah to Keystone and fitting image. One, because that'll never happen. But two, I think a lot of, like you said, like the core values of just like certain training principles of like always training your hardest and just instilling some of those values and disciplines into a program, I think go a long way. Um, so I would say a lot of those things of like the commitment levels and trying to just get the girls to buy into one being committed and one, like I said, I think another one of my huge things is just always training to your best ability and trying to get the most out of every single training session. And then as well as kind of like the technical side of things,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge technical coach. I love coaching the technical side of things because we always say, one, the little details matter a ton, like they really do.
Yep.
And you train the small things, so one, that it becomes easy, and two, so that you can then do the bigger things because you can't do the bigger things without the smaller principles. So
Very cool. Now this popped into my head. So when you were hired,
mhm.
when to take over the position, I don't know if you could say it, but like sometimes they just hire a coach to say, "Hey, we have a vacancy." Sometimes they hire a coach to say, "Hey, we want you to do something special with the program." Is there anything like that in your hire? Knowing your background, I would, but just based on that.
I think in this area, sometimes it can be, I'm sure it's true for other areas too, of just finding a very well-rounded coach committed to the game and committing to growing a program. And I think that was one of their biggest things. They actually did ask me, like, how long would you plan to stay?
Yeah.
Because they were looking for a long-term coach, somebody that would be invested and willing to go through the process of building the program. Because I think previous coaches had different things going on in their life and they weren't able to stay long. And then with a lot of turnover within the coaching staff, it's tough to build a program and tough to keep consistent. So I think really they were looking for somebody committed to the program and somebody that is willing to endure the process of building it and really bought in, I think, is what somebody that they were looking for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that makes sense. I see a lot of schools that have the ton of potential, but they just can't keep coaches around long enough, right, to sort of build some momentum that way. And most of the programs I see that are really good, they sort of have this longevity with their coaching staff. So, let me ask, where do you primarily recruit from in Pennsylvania, or do you sort of go out broader, the New Jerseys, the Connecticut's, that sort of?
Yeah, I would say when I first got here, I tried a lot of surrounding areas of even just local high schools. But I would say mostly it's surrounding states of like the New Jerseys, the New York, sometimes Maryland, just surrounding states basically. Not too much on the West Coast, mainly East Coast. And we do have a few kids more south of here that were just attending kind of local tournaments or within probably like the 5 hour radius of here. Um, so yeah, I typically stay kind of close.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just more curious about that. Yeah, I see most, you got a, you have a New Jersey forward, Michigan,
hmm
North Carolina. Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah, no, that tells me a lot, right? Like just sort of how far you're willing to go or to go find players, because that where I think I saw you or someone with, maybe it was just wearing the Keystone something, and
Okay.
at the ECNL event a while back. The there's a lot of schools that, and there's a lot of talented players that can find places to play, and it's just a matter of finding them, right, or just a matter of getting to them. And I think yeah, so I'm rambling a little bit, but all right, so let me ask, year one, your first, I mean, I wouldn't even say year one, you were 4 months in, right, and boom, you got a full season. Give me your overall assessment of how that first season went.
I think it certainly had its challenges. One, it being my first head coach stint. Um, Two, like you said, kind of just starting a few months prior to the season and trying to get everything together and organize and who do I actually have on my roster and those sorts of things. I think all things considered, I was pleased with the way it went and the way it ended. I know it could have gone a million different ways. The team itself had some battles off the field with just certain things going on, and I think how they responded to that was really cool. Um, we were kind of a split team last year, beginning of last year, like all freshmen, all seniors, one sophomore. So that dynamic. Were you gonna say something?
No. Go ahead. I'm just like, wow.
So that dynamic was a little interesting to come into at first because you have those first years that everything's new, they're not quite sure what's going on, and the seniors that have been through it, they're ready to go, and they expect everyone to be on the same page, or they would like everyone to be on the same page, and it's just not going to happen. So definitely like a lot of team building, a lot of training to do, because obviously first years, they were going to get playing time. A lot of them were going to start. And just that adjustment in general, I think, of calming the nerves, getting them used to the level of play. So the first few weeks, like, I expected it not to be amazing. But like I said, they overcame a lot. They were able to come together as a group bit by bit, and by the end of the season, I could tell off the field they were meshing a lot more and becoming closer, which is what I ultimately wanted, and it translated onto the field, which was what we needed as a team. So yeah, I mean, I think it ended well, all things considered. Like, I was happy with the effort they all started to put in, the hard work, and they started to kind of buy into what I was trying to do, because it's obviously tough for them too if a new coach just comes rolling in and their rules and they're like, what's going on? But no, it ended it ended okay.
But I'm actually looking at your roster right now, and I mean, you are all. I mean, except for one junior, one senior, you're all freshmen and sophomores. I'm assuming this is updated from. Yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
still very, very young. So you could, I mean, in the next couple of years, you could bang it out, right? Like they keep buying into what you're trying to do. How much of what you did in the fall was your? You only had 4 months. Granted, you only had 2 weeks to really prepare them to get them. How much did you try to get them to start doing the things that you wanted to do, or was it more like, yeah, we'll tweak it as we go, just to get through the
uh,
season?
yeah. That's a good question. That was probably a little bit of a challenge because, like I said, I didn't want to come in and turn everything upside down. Like, that wasn't necessarily an intention. Maybe those changes did need to be made, but I think I had to pick and choose the changes that I wanted to make. One, to help them keep a little bit of consistency so their world wasn't completely rocked. But yeah, I definitely had to pick and choose. But I would say for the most part, like, the training sessions I tried to really implement right away. Like I said, like, forcing speed of play, like, that's a big thing for me. And at the college level, like, you always have to be playing fast. So I really tried to implement that, as well as just some other principles of, like, I know sometimes common school, or the common thing for schools is, oh, freshmen pick up cones and freshmen do this and freshmen do that, but I really wanted to try to flip that culture, which is, I guess, another thing I kind of took from my high school and college experience of having the seniors lead, and the seniors do that type of stuff, and I think it shows the freshmen or first years, hey, like, they care about me, I'm not just a piece of meat. They're willing to help me through this process, because I told them, hey, like, first year's lives are hard enough, like,
Yeah.
coming in, experiencing new things. Why don't we help them feel more comfortable, um, and do these types of things that maybe the first years would normally do, but let's do them as seniors and show them that kind of servant leadership. I think it really helps build team culture. Maybe the seniors weren't necessarily happy about it at first, because they were like, it's finally my turn to sit back and take it easy. But so that was kind of one thing I tried to do to help the team culture a little bit. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, most of the things I tried to not enforce, but do right away, because I knew if I didn't do some of that this year, it would be tougher to do it
Next
next
year,
year.
yeah.
They knew what it was like, and if I tried to change something next year, they'd be like, "Oh, well, it wasn't like this the first year," you know.
Yeah.
So,
So
um,
so what was your spring I'm jumping around all over the place. So, what did your spring look like, knowing that you were just sort of doing the things that you thought were necessary? And then, so what is your spring sort of building on that momentum and sort of, hey, let's add some new ideas here?
yes, it was, and which I think was something that they maybe weren't necessarily used to in years past. Um, or I guess for the junior that was on the
Yeah.
team wasn't used to. I like to take the spring as like a building up for the fall. So I think some other schools do this as well, where the seniors that are graduating, they just kind of
Yeah.
let them do the
Yeah.
spring, and they don't necessarily ask them to train with the team in
Mm-hmm.
this, because there's not a real reason for them to
Mm-hmm.
train in the spring. Done. Um, so that hurt us a little bit numbers wise of all the things that I would have liked to do with the team and the squad in the spring. But yeah, training training was training. I also took that time to work a lot on the individual like needs.
Mm-hmm.
I think fall it's a lot of collective like teamwork, team
Yeah.
cohesive, tactics, all that stuff, where the spring I think is more time, especially for our smaller group, to really hone in on the individual needs that maybe I don't necessarily have the time for in the fall. Um, so I would say that was more my focus in the spring, to bring really the first years up to speed, and more so of my real coaching style
Mm-hmm.
of training the little things and taking more of that like within the group, but having more time individually to really hone in on some
Mm-hmm.
things.
All right. Back to the season. Where did based all right, so you got 4 months. What was your expectation like going into the fall? Like, were you I mean, did you expect them to play better? Did you expect them to play worse? Did you just collectively in general, were you
Yeah.
surprised by what they brought to the game?
I mean, truthfully, coming in, I didn't know quite what to expect. I wasn't very familiar with the conference, and yes, granted, I watched some film and I look back at records and things like that. But I think in any given season, like, you don't know what type of freshman teams are bringing
Mm-hmm.
in. You don't know how players had changed over the summer, things like that. So I wasn't quite sure what to expect. Um, and truthfully, a lot of our incoming players, the previous coach recruited, so I didn't necessarily really see them play much at all
Mm-hmm.
either. So it was kind of just up in the air. You see them in preseason, and you really, yeah, I mean, just give them that attitude of you want to win, and you'll do what it takes, and you'll try your best.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, with that short amount of time, you don't know what
Yeah.
you can expect from them.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would say like middle to top of the table, kind of where we ended.
Mm-hmm.
I is where I would have liked them to be. Yes, I would have always wanted to go farther, of course. But I think initially looking at the season, that's probably where I would have put us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's okay, because the more growth we have, hopefully we can continue to improve that position.
Doesn't the conference, didn't you do something wacky? The conference, do you get new teams or they're merging? So the
Yes,
CSAC is different now.
yes. So we're merging with the United
Yeah,
East.
that's it.
This year we still have the same conference schedule and the same non-conference schedule. Because those were made up kind of
Yeah.
before the merge. So what they're doing is they're taking the champion from the CSAC and the champion from the United East and playing that game as a
Uh huh.
championship for the automatic bid
Oh,
into
okay.
the NCAA.
Yeah.
So kind of just like one more game, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Tell me a little bit about the CSAC. I mean, I know Cedar Crest. Familiar with Bryn Athyn, St.
mhm.
Elizabeth. Yeah, just if you could talk a little bit about it
Yeah,
competitively and I mean, your 1 year impression. So that's totally
yeah,
going to change anyhow, so it doesn't matter.
true. I think it was a wide variety actually of teams and levels too, and even like roster sizes of just the different types of schools. Really, essentially, um, I think I kind of knew to expect from Bryn Athyn and the Cedar Crest and those teams, and kind of had a handle from like records looking at
Yeah.
records past and seeing a common theme for sure. Um, I think it'll be a good thing that we're merging with the United East. I
Yeah.
think it'll help collectively, overall, competitively, of kind of bringing the competitiveness, I think, up a level. I think the United East brings a lot of decent teams,
Hmm.
good teams, and I think it'll be good for the CSAC to have that opportunity to compete against good teams.
Yeah. Well, it helps too, right? Like if you know the tougher your conference ends up being, the better off it is just overall. If you don't make an automatic qualifier, can you do something out of conference, play enough teams to sort of boost you there, right? Makes it a lot. Um, all right, so I do have to ask you this. You went 6-8-2. You had two ties, St. Elizabeth and Rosemont. Um,
Mhm.
with the what are your thoughts on the no OTs?
um, I go back and forth a lot. I
Yeah,
think like, which I'm sure a lot of people do,
yeah.
and it's tough. I don't know if I'm sold on it. I think I would prefer to play the games out.
Hmm.
Granted, if we're playing an amazing side and it's tied, then maybe I'd be like, oh, the tie.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're done.
No, but deep down, I always want to have a winner at the end of
Yeah,
a game.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I go
But
I go back and forth. One day it's like, yeah, it makes sense. We shouldn't do overtimes, and then I'll be like, the next day I'll be like, oh, we should do overtimes because it's so great. Like fond memories of going into OT, both winning and losing, right? Like,
oh yeah, yeah.
um,
And I and with the heavy schedule, it does save some players' legs
yeah,
because those extra hard minutes
yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
difference. But yeah, it's interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, all right, a few more, and I'll let you get on with your day. What does your All right? So this is interesting because this will be your recruiting class, correct? The class that comes in is going to be your recruiting class. What does it look like?
Um, I would say athletic
Hmm.
mainly. A lot of great character kids that I know are gonna want to put in the work. I
Hmm.
think that's one of the biggest things for me right now is will they just put in the work? Will they grind? Will they train in the off season when
Hmm.
I'm not gonna be there? And will they buy into the coaching principles too of
Hmm.
a lot of technical stuff, a lot of little detailed stuff, which I'm sure is what a lot of coaches look for. But I think that's my main thing because we're trying to build our program. We need good kids that are going to want to do that with us.
Hmm.
A lot of competitive kids, a lot
Yeah,
of, like I said, overall hard workers.
yeah,
Um, and athleticism always helps.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And do you think that's the first? I'm going to say, do you think that's the first phase? Oh shoot, did you still there? Oh, it's okay. Um,
Yeah.
Something happened to my computer. Uh, would you say that's what you're doing because this is the first phase of what you're trying to get? You're trying to, I'll just say, amp up the level of your program.
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
Like that's next few years
Hmm.
and that when we start to continue to build, we look for the soccer IQ kids, the
Hmm.
kids that'll make the decisions, the kids that are technically sound, and the kids that know the game well and can keep possession too.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
another big thing of making the right choices on the ball. How they interact with their coach, how their team responds to them on the field. Um, it'll only continue to be a little bit more nitpicky.
Hmm.
Look for those special things throughout the years, for sure.
Did you recruit anybody? This is totally not one of those questions that I was thinking was the last couple. Did you did did you recruit anybody positionally? Like, did you look for like, yeah, like, hey, I need an outside back, and then
Hmm.
finding it, or were you just sort of like, at this point, I'll take 10 players who have the grit and they're ready to work and they'll put in the time, they'll do all those things, and then I'll
Yeah,
just place them where I think they're going to fit best.
I think majority was trying to find the right fit for Keystone.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few. There were a few where positionally, probably more than a few positionally, where we knew that we really needed strong players. Um, yeah, but I would say majority, and of course to help build the roster size. That's one of our biggest things this year and probably next year is continuing to help increase numbers, to
Mm-hmm.
help overall training environments and game situational decision making, things like that. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was all like I just need this type of kid. I don't care what position. I do believe that they're even if they claim they're an outside back, they can play
Wherever.
other places.
Yeah, yeah,
Very
yeah.
very easy to form a player into what you need them to be.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I saw it day and night at
Yeah,
Messiah
yeah,
with
yeah.
people, including myself. But yeah, I would say there was a few too
Yeah.
positionally.
What position did you play at Messiah? What was your main position?
6 and 8, like holding center
Uh huh.
mid.
Oh, very good, very good. Not a tough job at Messiah. No, not that role. Um, uh, all right. So what? I realize it's early,
Hmm.
and I don't want you to be like on somebody's inspiration board for the fall saying like, look what Keystone said and we're going to beat them silly when we play them. But what goals do you have for either yourself or the team going into the fall, which is only, what am I talking fall, like it's ages from now, it's only a month away.
Coming up quick.
Yeah.
I think we have a few off the field goals of continuing to build the culture of becoming a very close group. Because as I said earlier, I think that translates a lot onto the field. But I think there was a couple games last year that did not go the way we wanted them to go, which any program has. But I think looking back, and the girls know which games those are, that they just need to be better in those games and not give up too. Like
Yeah.
if we were down or if we were to go up, I think as collectively as a group, they can't get complacent.
Yeah.
That happened a couple times last year where we went up in a game and we let the other team come back.
Rookie
Which
mistake.
is
you know,
yeah, which is
you
just
know?
like growth from the
Yeah.
girls
Yeah.
and just a little bit more consistency
Yeah.
overall on
Mhm.
the field. I think a lot of times we were really down, a lot of times we were really up, just like different scoring lines,
Mhm.
obviously. And no matter what the score is, can we play the same essentially? Can
Yeah.
we play at our um, and not drop it? I think that would be pretty high up on my list
Yeah.
as well. And ultimately, I mean, everyone wants to finish better than they did the year before,
Yeah.
and that's certainly what we're looking to do. And I think it could be doable if they put in the work and show up
Yeah.
and again stay consistent and do the little things. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right, couple. I got two more questions, two that I just thought of, like literally spot on because of what you were saying. First of all, when do you start? When is like check-in day?
August 19th.
Very good, very good. Okay, and then the other question: what what did you? This is so out of place. I'm so all over. I'm sorry. What did you find? Like your first year, you're 4 months in, first time head coach, brand new. Hey, you kind of don't even know where the bathrooms are. You're still trying to figure out how your office is supposed to look. All that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
What surprised you the most about being a head coach?
I think all the off-field stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I things one of our field hockey coach said, she's like, yeah, it's like 10% coaching, 90% other stuff. And I was like, and I thought like, but I'm a head coach. Like
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just cones, X's and O's, baby.
yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I guess I just didn't fully know all the behind scenes
Mm-hmm.
work that goes into it and all the computer stuff and admissions and all that type of stuff. And also just being there as like a mentor to the girls too off out of the season and having conversations with them and just about personal life and whatever, which I fully wanted to be and I am for them. But yeah, I would say just all the non-coaching stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite honestly, I'm probably still learning
Yeah.
about all that type and just the process of the school and like I said, admissions and
Yeah.
but no, good.
Have you okay, more questions. Have you started recruiting for the next class? Yeah, 24s.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah. We probably started like over the summer, spring a little bit.
mm-hmm. um do do you have numbers in mind, like how many you would be looking to bring in, or is it just more like, hey, it's going to be a feel thing, like I could use 7, maybe 8, okay, 10, I'll take 10.
I think I would certainly like to bring in another big class.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Ideally 10 to 12, most likely. Of yeah, bringing in a class, and I think that's one thing that we're still trying to get ahead, or really even with other schools and their recruiting, because obviously in late, kind of scrambling a little bit, almost really
Mm-hmm.
to find, um, and then even this our 23s, our incoming, we were still behind, in the recruiting process for them.
Mm-hmm.
24 still kind of behind. So like year by year, we just get a little bit closer.
Get a little closer, like, okay, give it 5 years, you'll be right where you need to be.
But no, it's fine. It's been good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm not a last minute recruiting this year, which is very
Yeah.
very nice for sure to be in a place
You,
to have that.
I think you have a grad assistant as a assistant, grad
Yeah.
assistant. Are they considered full time for you? So are you kind of, sort of, maybe?
Yes. When school's
Yeah,
in process,
yeah.
yes. Over the summers, they're just home doing their own.
Does Keystone have graduate programs? Oh,
Yes.
I didn't
Yep.
know. I didn't know.
Yeah. I believe it's 5 to 10. I know the main one's
Mm-hmm.
business. We have like a justice one.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a sport leadership one, um, and several
Yeah, yeah.
psychology. So
Okay.
yeah, we have some.
Okay. Oh, I'm learning as I go, because I knew of you, I didn't know about you. So, all right. So I know you got a camp. I will let you go before I start thinking of other questions and curiosities. Um, I also think I know where you're at, so I do business all around that area, Lancasterish area, and north. So I'm actually going to see if I can't get out there and cheer on for one time this fall. So I have a lot of commitments to make to show up at places. So
I'm sure.
I'm going to add you to the list.
Well, we'd
Yeah. Well, thank you very much again. Wish you all the best, all the success. You the ladies. Hope you put in a ton of work, and you get all the just rewards for it. So, thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. You know, when I was going through the recruiting process, you got some phone calls, you sent and received a whole bunch of letters, maybe got a t-shirt in the mail. And then maybe if you were lucky, you went on a college visit. And that's how I landed at University of Mount Union, just through happenstance. The better way is if you were recommended by a friend who went to school, you had a high school coach or a club coach who knew somebody, you were seen if you were lucky enough to play on a pretty competitive high school team, or you went to one of the few club tournaments around there. I mean, the Pocono Cup was the place to play back in the 80s. But truth be told, nowadays you're competing for roster spots with guys you've never seen, you've never played against, you don't know, and can be from anywhere across the country. So you have to have your own recruiting process button tight if you want to land a roster spot. And this, the college recruiting process can be pretty overwhelming. There's a ton of paid services out there that do what they do, but truth be told, you don't necessarily need them to get recruited. You could do it all yourself. Unfortunately, there's tools out there. So, one of those tools and a great starting point is to check out Discover College Soccer Study Table. Now, I've interviewed Matt Baer, who's the founder of Discover College Soccer, before. Really great guy, and you've probably seen his podcast. I've referred to it and recommend anybody to go to check out his interviews with coaches at all levels. That is specifically designed to talk about the recruiting process and the different college programs. He's not talking about them himself, he's letting the coaches speak. So with all of that information that he's gathered, he's put together this study table that is a program to help you with your recruiting process that's complete with video course on the recruiting process from start to finish. He has these that are updated spreadsheets that are updated monthly, with contact information and details about every program in the country. That alone is worth its weight in salt. He has a bunch of other resources, email templates, checklists to help you guide you through your own process. Now, the best part is, whereas you can pay thousands of dollars to some of these recruiting services, you can get a lifetime subscription to the study table for less than one night in a tournament hotel. The best part of it is that Matt has his own soccer experience. He's a former college player and college coach. He's talked to over 150 coaches in just the last year, and he has some great insights and has created something that I think is probably very, very useful to a lot of you, and best of all, you get to save time and save money. Now look, I don't recommend people that I don't know or I haven't come to know. I've talked to Matt, as I mentioned, on a number of occasions, and he's probably has the most insightful and, I'll just say, thorough understandings of the recruiting process. Not because he's made it up, but because he's asked coaches across the college game. And he's taken all of that, figured out what the best recommendations from all of those discussions that he has, and put that together into the study table. So if you don't want to spend thousands on recruiting, on a recruiting service, and you have the mind to do it yourself, the Discover College Soccer Study Table is for you. So in the description, you can find a link that will get you 20% off on a lifetime subscription. Or if you go to discovercollegesoccer.com, click on the study table to register and use the discount code SIMPLE, you get to save 20% on your subscription. So with that, good luck.